I was surprised how funny and inspiring it was, because I write about food for a living. I've done stories on this before, and I would have found it much more challenging. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about what you've taken away from it. Now it must be a good year or longer since this project ended for you. What are you still doing today?
Well, we're not bidding anymore. Actually, we're not really advocates of it because it's not really a solution. We just sort of see it as a way to reveal what's happening. That food should be donated. That food should be sold. Mm-hmm. It's the valuing food is definitely a big part of our house now. There's really no plate waste at our house anymore. We eat everything that we have, and do you eat things that you don't want to eat? It looked like you were doing that a bit in the film. Yeah, I hate yogurt.
We you still do that?
Well, yeah. If Jen gets something that's close dated, then I'll eat it for sure.
Yeah. Where did you see the most potential for real change? I mean, what we can do at home is one thing, but there is a large and somewhat intractable system out there. Where did you see some inroads that could be hoed?
Well, I mean, we actually can make a big difference as individuals because half of all the food that is wasted is at the individual level. So, I mean, that's one of the inspiring things about this issue is that we can have an impact. But, I mean, we need legislation coming from the top as well. I know Ontario just passed legislation giving farmers a tax break if they're going to donate the food that they have that's excess. And I think that kind of incentive can really help.
Mm-hmm. Did you meet other people who were involved in this while you were doing this project, and what were they like?
Like in terms of dumpster diving?
Yeah.
No, actually we didn't, because we avoided the areas where there was frequent binners because we felt like that was their territory. They actually needed that food. So we were driving out of the city to wholesale areas. That's where we're finding lots of food and no one around, and absolutely no one. That's why we could set up camera cranes and get those kinds of shots because no one was bothering us except for once a security guard came up to us and I was a bit terrified, but it was that he thought we were stealing parts off the semi-trucks.
So nobody tried to stop you, really?
No, I gave him some chili. I said, take some of this delicious organic chili, and I think we all learned something that night.
We did also see one person one time. It was a dumpster full of pop, and they were just cracking each one and pouring it down the drain and taking the can for the deposit because we get 10 cents in British Columbia.
Oh, wow. Thrifty. Yeah. I mean, there is when I've done stories on this before, I started out thinking, these people are insane for wanting to glean food this way, and I came away at the end of it thinking these people are really, really smart because you can save a whole ton of money. So frugality must have been an issue, and it must have been something you've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, we did save money, but we really did try to buy the food. That was the first plan, but no grocery stores would sell us the food they pulled off the shelf.
Why did you want to buy it? Why was that important?
Because the term freegan is like a term for someone, and I never liked that term because it immediately you get this connotation that someone's trying to get something for free. And it removes the issue, which is that good food's being thrown away. So that's why we tried to buy it, to prove that this food is still good. The food that's being discarded, there's nothing wrong with it. We're not talking about food scraps. We're talking about good food.
Yeah. Is there anybody in the audience, by the way, that has a question? Just going to look out there and see if I can see anybody. I see a hand. Bless you.
I saw a lot of the food waste was from wholesalers. Is there any pressure that you see, any wholesalers that are actually changing their ways? They're actually starting to send those food elsewhere?
I mean, there's lots of wholesalers and grocery stores that do donate the food. One of the places where we found quite a bit of food after we were done filming, we were able to connect them with Quest, and they do donate to Quest. Often what we are finding is sometimes an organization does donate, and then it's more of a timing and logistics issue. So they might donate Monday to Friday, but then if that nonprofit doesn't pick up on the weekend, then they don't have anything to do on the weekend, so then they throw it in the garbage on Saturdays and Sundays. So, I mean, they have the right idea, and it's more about getting that pickup when they need it.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
Did you find out why some of those things that had a year left on them were being thrown?
Yeah, no, some of the products, I couldn't really explain why it was thrown away. I found maple syrup, too, which is, I was... great find. Most of it we could speculate that it was close to date. The chocolate bars, for example, had more than a year, but like as we said in the film, it didn't have French labeling, so they were actually bars destined for the UK market, and they came to Canada. That's our guess. They came the wrong way, so they threw them out. But any food bank would have taken that. A store like Quest would take that. So it's just a shame that it's just not, those connections aren't happening.
Yes.
When you found any of the big catches, did you distribute the food at all? Like I saw
Yeah.
the one place piece with your friends who came grocery shopping, but if you found tons and tons of food, did you have a network of friends or any means of passing it along?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so he was just one person that came to our house. I mean, my mom came and shopped at our house too. We had all kinds of people come over. We did try to donate it to some of the local nonprofits, but they wouldn't take it because it had already been in the bin, which, I mean, fair enough. They don't know why it was in there. They don't know how long it was in there, especially things like meat and dairy. So they said that they would take it directly from the wholesaler, but they wouldn't take it from us. So I did try donating it, and then we just gave it to as many friends as possible.
We had a friend that came with us quite often and came a bit addicted to it. Actually still texts us now saying, I just found a bunch of almond butter. I got about 4 pounds. Should I bring it over? But he was distributing it through his apartment building. He would put it in the back alley. He was usually gone by morning. And so he got really, really into it. But he works in the food industry, so he didn't want to be shown in the film.
Grant, have you lost that 10 pounds?
You tell me. How do I look? I've been doing some lengths. We're doing the film festival circuit right now, so there's just a lot of hotels. So I've been doing some lengths. That's about the best I can do.
Well, why do you think that more food doesn't go to food banks?
I think it just comes down to who's going to be transporting it, who's going to pay for that. That's the missing link, and who has a refrigerated truck to do so. And then on the other end, in terms of places that take food, are sometimes overwhelmed because they don't have freezer space, for example, to preserve the food. So dried goods typically get donated more often and have that longer shelf life, but it really comes down to that transport issue seemed to be the biggest disconnect.
Because it's not just locally. I mean, when we went to California, think globally, California produces so much produce. Like their local food banks could never handle it, but who's going to pay for it to drive all the way across the country to Michigan or wherever?
Mm-hmm. And why were the Quest organization? Can you tell us a bit more about that? I've never heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
That's a local Vancouver organization. We found that every city has great organizations in place. There's Second Harvest, that's in Toronto, is the largest one in Canada. But the Quest model is kind of unique. That's why we highlighted it, because they have a store where you can spend your own money rather than just get a handout, and so you can choose which food that you'd like to buy.
Mm-hmm. Because choice is limited, and you found that throughout your experiment too, right?
Yeah, 1 week you'd find 30 liters of milk, and then 2 weeks later you find the cereal, but you never find them at the same time. It was interesting. We started to have that same issue that the wholesalers were having. We had too much stock with a shelf life, and then had to get it out of the house. But the difference is that we were composting anything that we couldn't get to in time or give away in time. So, I mean, that we look at that as like the last resort is composting, and what's pretty great in Metro Vancouver in 2015, they're banning organics to the landfill. So that's going to put pressure on restaurants, on wholesalers, on grocery stores to do something with that food, or else they're going to get fined heavily to send it to the garbage.
Wow. So they're banning the
Organics. Anything organic.
When we
can't
say
be sent to landfill.
Right. So at the landfill, and when we say organics, we don't mean organic like not pesticides. We mean organic as in food scraps, anything that biodegrades.
Yeah. Okay.
What started your interest in this topic, and what gave you the idea to make the film?
That's a great question. This is actually our second film. Our first film was called The Clean Bin Project. Has anyone seen that here? All right. Thanks for coming, guys, for the sequel. We did a year competing with each other to see who could produce zero garbage. And through that, we got to travel the world and talk to schools. And at one school, they asked us to do a waste audit. So they made us dump out their trash onto a tarp and sort it and say, what could we have recycled? So we had like the metals pile, and we had, some paper over here and plastic. But then we were coming across like pudding cups and banana peel, or not banana peels, but uneaten bananas, granola bars still in the package. And it just kind of was like a light came on, like it doesn't really matter about all this recycling of paper and stuff if we're not even eating our food. And at that time, Guelph, Ontario just released their food waste report that said 40% of food raised and grown is discarded. And we just started research at that point and dove right into it.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shot 100% of it.
There's zero stock footage in this movie, and that was like me geeking out with camera gear. And we were fortunate enough to partner with Knowledge Network, and they came on board after we cut a demo, and that gave us the budget to actually make the movie we wanted to make. Some shots took over a year to do, and camping out in farm fields, filming cornfields with stars. I mean, sorry, Jen, like for some of those crazy shoots, but I think it paid off. The pepper alone, we were fortunate enough to get a camera into a wholesaler grower, and we set up a camera for 7 months to get it to grow, and then followed it through its transport as well. So that took over a year, that shot.
How long did it take to get that pepper that was just like decomposing?
The decomposing part was the quick part. That was like 3 weeks, but the growing was 7 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of reaction have you had to the film? You did really well at Hot Docs. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been hearing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The reaction at Hot Docs was amazing. Grant actually won Emerging Canadian Filmmaker, which is quite prestigious, and it's a big festival with about 200 films from all over the world.
I think it's 400, yeah.
Oh,
maybe it's a million
Let's
films.
bump it up a
Could
bit,
be.
Jen. That's make it sound really good.
so it's the largest documentary film fest in Canada, so that was quite an honor. And we actually just found out that we got into IDFA, which is the largest documentary film fest in the world, so we're going to Europe next month.
Woo!
Yeah.
And apparently Edmonton gave us the Best Canadian Documentary Award, so we really appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've had a baby since the film.
We did. We had a post-production baby.
Yeah. And so what are you doing with that baby in terms of food waste? What sorts of practices have you brought into the home that involve your child rearing?
Well,
you make all your own baby food?
He's 6 months old, so he's just started eating, but he will eat orphan bananas. So you know how they have bananas in the bunch at the store, and then nobody buys those single bananas? So we buy those orphan bananas, and he'll eat those. And he's eaten a couple avocados, and he actually has had some dumpster dove baby food.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There's mothers judging you right now, Jen.
I know.
I can feel it.
I know.
He's still alive, folks.
Any other questions?
You guys are pretty much heroes for doing this under the cover of making a film, but would you recommend this for anybody that would like to do bin?
No. It's not a very good lifestyle. I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter what you find. You will never get out of your head where you found it when you're eating it. It doesn't matter how beautiful it looks on the plate. You're thinking of that weird green bin with the stains. It's just don't do it.
And there are public health concerns, too, in terms of things that you could find in the bins, or, chemicals could have been spilled in there, or sharp objects, that kind of thing. Did you run into any issues that way?
No, we didn't have any issues like that. I mean, the places that we were looking, like, literally you could tell that they came and dumped the entire pallet. Like, sometimes it was still wrapped, like, on the pallet.
Yeah, the pallet's
entire
in
thing
with it,
would be
yeah.
in it, and it would be wrapped in boxes and boxes. So, I mean, we were talking about wholesalers where it was the entire load was going in the trash.
It was just kind of like someone had knocked a shelf over in Costco into a dumpster. Like, literally looked like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, one more.
Has led to any policy conversations? Have you had any conversations with anyone who has policy-making power?
Right, is it starting to affect policy? I don't know if our film is, but we're definitely getting more engaged with other people that are working on food waste around policy. In our region, 3 of the local governments have gotten together and are doing a Table Matters program where they are trying to connect nonprofits with donors and kind of be that facilitator, so that's really exciting. And they're having an event where they're having food waste speakers, and that's next month. And then also in San Francisco, and this actually did come directly from our film, someone was inspired to have a zero waste food forum, and people are coming from all over the country, and we're going to have all the 3 people from our film are going to join us on a panel discussion, and then the next day they're going to have policy workshops all day with government. So that's really exciting.
It's like great. It started out like as we're going to show your movie, and now we're like the tiny little article in the huge forum 3-day conference thing. It's like incredible how things can grow. And that was one individual that spearheaded that. So it's incredible what one person can do.
What about future projects for you guys? What are you up to next?
We're going to do a 50-minute cut of this movie, and then we're going to go and film students that are proactive with food waste, and there's a few stories we want to follow and put those into the movie, and so when we take it to schools, they can watch it and go, why don't we do that? Instead of just looking at it and going, well, I don't grocery shop at my house, so what can I do? Mm-hmm. We really want to make that connection, because for us, one of our earliest memories of even talking about this kind of stuff was learning about reduce, reuse, recycle in elementary school, and it sticks with you, and it's really important to hit that age.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank this very engaged audience for all its questions. Thank you so much, and thank you guys for coming tonight. It was terrific to have you here.
Thanks so much.